Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would chat with you guys a little bit about BMI and lifters. And this is something that people talk about from time to time, and I think it's something we do need to look at and address. But this topic came up because I had a subscriber yesterday say that, hey, I think your strength standards are off. You're saying that, people should be able to reach a 405 deadlift in a year of serious training, that should be normal. And I'm below that. And I've been training for something like 2 years, 2.5 years, whatever it was. And his stats, though, I believe, and I could be wrong, he said he was something in the range of 6'1" and 165 pounds. So if you go look at a BMI chart, you guys see where I'm going to go with this. He is in the normal healthy range. This healthy range usually assumes you haven't gained a whole lot of muscle, doesn't it? And he might have even said he was 160, and I think that's what it was. So we go look, that's very squarely at a BMI of 21, in the middle of the healthy range. Now, this healthy range usually assumes a person hasn't gained a lot of muscle and that they're at an average normal body fat. You're probably somewhere in the range of 12 to 18% body fat, for most men to be in that, for your frame size. Again, some people are going to be a little higher or lower depending upon the size of their frame and everything else, but this is assuming not a lot of muscle gain. Well, if you have someone like that, and I'm looking at it going, well, 6'1" at 160, that's a 21. Even if this guy gained 10 pounds of muscle at the same body fat, from there he would be higher up 23, near the higher end of the healthy range. But here's the point I would make. If you've gained all of your noob gains, you're going to have gained somewhere in the range of 15 to 20 pounds of muscle, right? 15 to 20 pounds of muscle mass. The taller you are, the higher that's going to be. The reason we give ranges for muscle gain is because a taller person has more muscle. They have longer muscles. They have more mass on them. They're going to have the potential to gain more muscle through their entire life. In other words, if you took two people with similar genetics and structure ratios, and one of them is 5'6" and the other is 6'2", put them on the same program, same amount of calorie surplus, the taller guy is going to gain more total muscle, right? And he's going to be more of a percentage of his muscle mass or a percentage of his body weight. He's going to weigh more. He's going to have a bigger frame. So that's why this stuff starts to matter. But a guy who's over 6 foot tall should have gained 20 pounds of muscle if they trained correctly and hard their first year of training. Now, a lot of people will say, yeah, but some of these charts show that people who are drug-free, they stay very much in the higher end of the healthy range as long as they don't gain body fat, even if they've been lifting, right? But here's the other thing. How many people actually train? How many people actually train their entire body? Most people who go to the gym and work out don't do a great deal of work for their back and legs. They probably do some, but they don't do a lot of work there. Well, those are the biggest muscles in your body. So if a person puts all their focus on their chest and their shoulders and only a little bit of back work and a little bit of leg work, they might only gain 10 pounds of muscle, right? Because you can't put 15 pounds onto your shoulders and your chest and your arms. If you've done that, you've probably blasted pretty large amounts of drugs to gain that much muscle in those smaller areas. Those are not big muscles. They don't have a lot of potential to put pounds and pounds on you. But someone who's trained their entire body will very possibly have gained 20 plus pounds. It's not unreasonable for them to gain, especially if he's over 6 foot tall, to gain up to 20 pounds. Someone who's shorter, 5'5", 5'6", they might only gain 15. But if you look at the charts, where does that place people? All right, if a guy is 6'1", weighing 160 is your healthy normal. That should be your starting point. If they put 20 pounds on of solid muscle, and you're probably going to have to gain a little fat also, a little bit of fat, they're going to weigh 180. That's going to put them way further up the healthy range, right? Way further up. What do we say is a lifetime expected gain for someone who's been training for years and has maximized their potential? 25 to 30 pounds of muscle, yeah. If you've pretty much maxed out your frame size, a guy, under 6 foot, 25 pounds of muscle isn't unreasonable. Guy over 6 foot, 30 pounds of muscle is pretty reasonable. for 5+ years of hard training. Well, now you take that over. What happens to your guy who starts at 160 at 6'1"? If he's gained 30 pounds of solid muscle and then stayed at the same body fat, and he's gained no body fat, his percentage will have gone down. He will actually be leaner on a body composition scale. Well, he's going to be 190 at that point. All right, so you take your same 6'1" guy, that's now overweight. Even though he's technically leaner on a body composition, that's overweight. What I would suggest to you that most people, if you have maximized your potential and you are staying in the healthy body fat range, meaning you're probably not going over about 15% body fat, you're going to be in the yellow on this chart. You're going to be in the overweight BMI, and that's drug-free. That's drug-free. And then if anyone has added other stuff in the past, or they've followed maybe some extreme training, they might even be higher. In my case, again, I have used a little bit of stuff in the past. I'm on TRT now, and I've maintained. I'm probably above my natural limit for my frame. Well, you guys saw my DEXA scan. I'm 5'9", and I have 182 pounds of lean body mass. That was my fat-free mass. If you stripped all the fat off of me and put me to zero body fat magically, I would still weigh 182. According to my DEXA scan, that puts me at like 26.5. I would be overweight if all my fat disappeared. Then you take someone like me, even at 10% body fat, you figure that would be what, about another 18 pounds? I'd probably be 200 pounds. That puts me at the very top of the overweight, almost obese. Now, here's the problem. And that's one reason I'm actually going to slowly keep dropping weight down. When you start getting into the obese category, even if you're relatively lean, again, we start seeing BMIs of 30 plus. And again, this is something I need to be concerned with. You know, for me, that basically means 205 plus, I'm technically considered obese, even if I was at 10% or lower body fat. What lifters need to think about in terms of that is, are there potential health risks to that? Yeah. There are potential health risks to carrying too much muscle also. There's potential health risks to too much muscle. Is it the same as too much fat? Absolutely not. Because we know things like muscle mass, gaining 5 or 10 pounds of muscle actually reduces your chances of developing cancer. That's a perfect example. Having too much fat increases your chances of having cancer. So things like cancer, stuff like that, this doesn't hurt you if it's muscle gain. But, if we start talking about long-term cardiovascular risk and things, well, maybe so. It may not be healthy to walk around at a BMI of 30 plus, even if you're lean. But what people need to remember, you can't really compare that. You can't really compare that to someone who's a BMI 30 plus at 30% body fat. And that's the difference. That's what you need to remember. There's an enormous difference in terms of things like diabetes, cancer, stuff like that. This 30 plus, though, again, potential for some heart risk and everything. But the thing is, the majority of people are not going to hit a 30 plus. The majority of people who are going to reach a BMI of 30 plus, even when at a healthy body fat, have generally used some sort of anabolics in the past. So this is why we might look at this and say, is this still potentially correlated with cardiovascular disease? Yeah, because you probably used some drugs that might have had some cardiovascular risk factors to push your muscle mass up too. People don't really hit the obese category at under 15% body fat completely clean, right? Lifetime clean doesn't really happen. Maybe there's a few genetic outliers. So, that isn't an automatic accusation to say that person must have used drugs, but it's pretty probable. It's a safe bet. If you're a betting man and going to put your money on it, it's a safe bet at that point. It's a safe bet. Because, for example, you take like my bro Nico Ella, who I would say is probably about as big and as lean as a person can get drug-free at the limits, and he is a genetic freak. He's about 5'10". He walks around 195. I'd say off season like that, he's probably about 12% body fat, right? Ballpark. That puts him at 28, that puts him at the high end of the overweight at a relatively lean body weight. But then he drops down to something, I think, like 180 for his contests. So that puts him further down into the overweight. But he stays in this yellow. He is in that overweight category. And he's pretty much maximized his frame. I don't think he could get bigger. I don't think a genetically gifted natural is going to get any bigger than he is for their frame. All right, let's just be realistic. So the BMI chart can tell us a lot, but the thing is, I will tell you, unless you are ultra lean, here's my point, you're not going to be in the healthy range if you've gained significant muscle mass. This green chart. You're going to be in the overweight, but if you stay in the overweight, the yellow, and you're lean, relatively lean, you're just as good as being the healthy. But when we start hitting that 30 plus, that's where you run into potential risk. But I will tell people, unless you are 10% lower body fat, unless you're pretty damn lean with a deep six pack, if you are not into the 25 plus on the overweight, you have not even come close to maximizing your muscular potential. You very possibly haven't even finished out your noob gains, and you very probably can put another 5 to 10 pounds of muscle on your frame completely clean over the next few years at that point. So the BMI, again, is useful for telling us that, hey, maybe we aren't really at our muscular potential, but it can still be indicative of some health risk as well when we start looking at the upper thresholds of it. But I will tell guys, though, if you are still in that green area and you think that you have trained really hard and gained a ton of muscle, if you're not walking around at 10% body fat or less, you probably haven't gained as much muscle as you think you have. And you have a long way to go, and that's why you might be weak on a strength standards chart when you start looking even at body weight. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.